I never imagined that I would be sitting here typing this, but here I am 6 months before I moved to a charming, suburban neighborhood called Maplewood Glade, where well-manicured hedges and strict homeowners association rules rim daily life as a telecommuting legal advisor. I was drawn by the promise of tranquility, but little did I know that my legal experience would quickly become my sword and shield against a neighborhood bully named Margaret Penrose, the infamous HOA president. My introduction to Maplewood Glade was charming. I received the standard welcome packet neatly presented in a binder, detailing all the rules and expectations. The residents appeared friendly. I'd catch couples walking their dogs, golden hour evenings, neighbors waving and greeting, and the occasional barbecue or block party flyers slipped under my door. It was lovely, that is, until I got a taste of Margaret's rule firsthand. During a week, a notice in tacky red ink was affixed to my front door violation. Unauthorized garden decoration remove within 24 hours or pay a $100 fine. It was about a bird bath I'd put in my garden. Nothing gaudy, just a classic stone bowl surrounded by peonies. The notice was signed with Margaret's name and phone number, trying to be polite. I phoned her, I introduced myself and said I hadn't seen anything in the bylaws specifically prohibiting bird baths. Margaret's voice was abrupt and haughty. Section 6, paragraph 3. No unapproved decorative features visible from street. I am following the rules and we all had them in agreement. I suggest that you read the guidelines before installing anything further. Her condescension grated, but I gratefully thanked her and did just what she suggested. I read the bylaws because I suspected the rule had pre-approval necessary for items decorative, not an outright ban. I filled out the proper form and got official approval from another board member within a week. Margaret observed the birdbath stayed, but clearly wasn't happy. But with the permit in hand, she couldn't do anything about it. That could have been the end, but instead it was the beginning of what appeared to be a concerted campaign. Over the next few months, I received a series of notices, lawn too long, by half-an-inch trash bins, allegedly visible they weren't, and even curtain colors clashing with the neighborhood style. Each time I documented everything, cross-referenced the bylaws, and replied firmly but respectfully to the community meetings. Margaret began giving me those frostbitten stares when I inquired questions about selective enforcement of policies. Her lips would purse, the tension, brewed things, escalated when I rented out my guest room to a graduate student. Daniel from the nearby university. Maplewood Glade's bylaws permitted homeowners to lease out rooms as long as the owner was still in residence and the proper documents were filed. I filed everything, included the lease, and received receipt acknowledgement. 3 days later, I returned home from running an errand to find Margaret on my porch. Her face was smug. "We have denied your tenant application," she said. "This is a family neighborhood, not a college dorm." I maintained my cool on what grounds the bylaws explicitly permit this setup. "The board has complaints about parking noise and maintaining the character of the community," she said with a wave of hand. "Please send the board's written response as per Section 12 of the bylaws." Her smile dissipated. "I'll have it in writing. In the meantime, your tenant has to vacate by week's end." I hadn't intended to ask Daniel to leave without cause. The following day, one of my fellow board members emailed me an apologies. The application had actually gone through. Margaret had overstepped. Again, things came to a boil when I left town for a brief business trip. I had Daniel and our neighbor Lease keep an eye on the place while I was gone. Daniel seemed anxious. "There is something you need to see," he mentioned, pulling out the kitchen drawer where we kept a printed lease. Red marks slashed through the pages, handwritten notations, marked certain provisions as not approved or a violation. Who did this? I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling. Margaret. She dropped by, reported she was reviewing the property. I had taken her around to see the lease, and she stated she was editing it, then informed me to begin searching for a new location. I was outraged. Margaret had come into my residence in bad faith and defaced a binding document of law that was not HOA conduct, that was illegal. That I called the police right away. Initially, the responding officer appeared uncaring, but I explained everything, calmly displayed my credentials, the tore-up lease and the original electronic copy. His demeanor changed. "This is property damage, breaking into your home illegally under false pretenses, may be unlawful. Breaking in," he took photos and made a report in depth. I also called the HOA board, emailed them copies of the lease and police report. Some members returned in shock and disavowed Margaret, saying she acted alone. 2 days after the police phoned, they had talked to Margaret. She admitted altering the lease but said she had the HOA board. As president, HOA board is not above state law. The officer informed me Margaret was taken into custody for vandalism, unauthorized entry, and tampering with a legal document during the investigation. More residents came forward. Many had suffered similar bullying, but were too afraid to confront her. The incident shook Maplewood Glade. There was a special HOA meeting. Margaret, out on bail, reappeared trying to rally her wavering support. I was standing up for the standards of this community. We can't let our standards to take the board to slide. The board wasn't deterred. They voted unanimously to strip her of her position and barred her from serving in any HOA positions in the future. The bylaws unequivocally allowed the removal of board members who had abused their powers, especially after criminal charges. Margaret's court hearing was set weeks away. The courtroom was packed with neighbors. I was to notify the judge. A no-nonsense woman with piercing eyebrows listened attentively to the prosecutor's arguments that Margaret's attorney insisted she was simply overzealous, but the judge wasn't having this. Court does not recognize an HOA presidency as licensed to break the law. You entered a home under false pretense and you tampered with a legal document. She found Margaret guilty on all counts. The sentence: 6 months probation, a $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, and a 5-year ban from any HOA leadership position. Margaret sat silently as the sentence was read, her face pale, her hands clasped. The woman who once strode the streets like a self-styled queen now looked like someone who barely knew her own face. Peace gradually seeped into Maplewood Glade. Community meetings grew less belligerent, citizens started to voice themselves more openly, and I still live here. My bird bath cheerfully in place. Daniel finished his graduate thesis and emerged as something of a local hero for revealing Margaret's trespass. Sometimes justice does not arrive in fiery headlines. Sometimes it arrives through quiet defiance, legal knowledge, and determination to stand your ground for me. Maplewood Glade is not only where I live anymore, it's where together we reclaim dignity from the darkness of intimidation.